Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Hey guys, this is Christmas time, right? And we all have our favorite movies. So I'm sitting here today with my buddy, the Grinch, and we've come up with our two favorite movies. But I would really like to hear what your favorite Christmas movies are. And since I'm sitting here with the Grinch, one of them has to be The Grinch, right? And then the other one, we'll tell you in a little bit, but I think you'll love it. And it's a must see. And it's one of those things you have to see every year. We'll catch you in a minute.
Happening now. It's happening now. Happening now. With Hammer.
So, guys, we're back. Listen, the Grinch and I are going to go over one of our favorite all time, something you need to watch every year, regardless, starting from the original, right? Grinch, when was the original?
The original book was 1957, and the movie was 1966.
And what did it come from? Where did this whole Grinch thing come from?
Well, you gotta know Dr. Seuss if you gotta know the fun stuff that he used to do. Remember, like green eggs and ham?
Oh, yeah.
Remember that?
I wonder how they made a 5-page book into a 2-hour movie.
Certainly glad they did.
Oh, absolutely.
How the Grinch Stole Christmas was actually the true title of the movie.
Absolutely. And the cartoon one, we'll get into that a little bit. But that one was only like maybe 39 minutes, I think. It wasn't very long. They did a much better job of portraying the book than the Jim Carrey one, which kind of went off script, but I thought was super cool. I've never understood why people have given it bad reviews. I mean, Ron Howard, Paul Glazer, those guys knocked it out of the ballpark, I thought.
Yeah, Ronnie Howard actually got a Academy Award, I believe, for art direction for that movie. So, but yeah, it was lambasted in the papers and stuff with all the critics because they just, I don't know, it just wasn't an epic movie, but it's a classic movie.
Yeah, I think the Academy, Brian, the designer, what was super interesting about that movie is that Jim Carrey was so frustrated the first day on set when 8.5 hours he sat in a chair, okay, putting on that hair and the makeup and doing the whole thing. And he worked and did the whole deal, went back to his trailer after a few hours, kicked a hole in the wall, called Ron in and said, I quit. I can't do this. Right? Have you heard that story?
No, I did, yeah. In fact, he had to be kind of sat down and told, if you want to remain on... Oh, hi, by the way.
Where'd the Grinch go?
Oh, I'm here. It's warm in that.
Yeah.
Had to be kind of constrained. His makeup artist was just, complaining that he was being a diva, but 8.5 hours every time he put it on, it was a real pain, and it cost a lot of troubles. He wouldn't even show up on set sometimes. He just didn't want to get in costume.
Well, the Fix-It Man, Brian Glazer, the other producer in the show, hired an ex-CIA guy that his expertise was torture. So what he did with Jim is that he said, listen, whenever you're feeling, because Jim said it was like being in a frickin' coffin, because all those prosthetics and everything on him. He said that once you start feeling that thing, he goes, either hit yourself in the leg, smoke a cigarette, turn on the TV, do something, have somebody slap you on the head. And the funny thing is, he said, Jim, you need to smoke a lot. So Jim's on set with this, costume with a long cigarette thing and asking people for lights while he's punching himself, right, to get through this.
But you know what? It's one of the best acting jobs I think he's ever done. I mean, he's done some really good stuff. He's called the Rubber Guy, right? The comedian from heaven. But I thought he did an excellent job. My family watches the movie every single year, and I've got adult kids, right? And so you just have to watch it every year. And his performance is so good, and we know all the words, to the whole movie. It's a lot of fun.
Well, listen, you've got those slave actors and those intense guys like Jim Carrey. I mean, to me, I think he's just amazing. Liar, Liar, all the ones that he's done, Ace Ventura, Pet Detective. And I mean, he's done a million. I don't know how many films he's done, but I'm sure well over 50. But every time he comes in with that, I mean, the guy's got the most facial actions I've ever seen of any actor, right?
Yeah, now he's a painter, I believe, right? I think he doesn't act so much anymore. Now he considers himself a professional painter. I mean, large scale canvases and whatnot. But again, let's not forget where it all started. Dr. Seuss.
That's right.
It started back then. I mean, I was a mere 5-year-old when that came out. So to me, it's just ingrained. You had to watch the Grinch every year, and the cartoon Grinch, or what do you call it, animated film or flip.
So let me do the math. In 1966, it came out.
I gave it up.
Holy shit, you're old. Okay.
But, it was Theodore Seuss Giselle.
Yep.
Was his name. And he changed his name. Do you hear how he changed his name or why he did?
Well, lay it on me.
Yeah, he went to college at Dartmouth, right?
Oh,
and
smart kid.
They caught him drinking, and it was during Prohibition nonetheless. So not only could you not drink, period, but it was Prohibition. So they busted him, and he was the editor of the local comedy magazine at Dartmouth, which was called Jack-O-Lantern. And so for him to keep writing and keep putting things into the paper, he got a pen name. He said, "I'm a Dr. Seuss," and that's where it came from.
That is very cool.
And he was a writer. He was a poet. He did all that. He was really, really talented at what he did.
But we were talking earlier, unlike our buddy Gene Simmons from Kiss, that markets the hell out of everything, does an amazing job. He never did any of that. His marketing was nothing.
Yeah, he didn't. But while he was alive, when Dr. Seuss was alive, he said he would not sell any of his proprietary material, right? So
it's copyright.
He was gonna sell any of that. And not long after he passed, his widow said, "I think there's an opportunity here," right?
Smart girl.
And she was no rocking chair widow. She was like, she put contracts out. So she would send a letter to all the studio heads in LA and said, "Okay, I'm ready to do this thing, and I'm gonna have to read part of this because it's so detailed." But she put in this thing. She said, "I'm willing to sell it, but it has to be $5 million for just the material. I need 4% of the box office gross. I need 50% of all merchandising revenue and music-related material, and 70% income from any book tie-ins." So she starts out with that, and then she says,
"Wow."
She says, the lead actor, anyone who submits an offer to me, the lead actor has to be of a caliber of Jack Nicholson, Jim Carrey, Robin Williams, or Dustin Hoffman. And the person who produces it cannot have made less than $1 million on their last movie. So she's like, "Yeah, I'm a mean one."
She had the right attorneys.
She had the right attorneys. So it all worked out extremely well, right? They deserved to make that kind of money off of that, off of the material that Dr. Seuss put out.
Absolutely. But back to Jim Carrey's movie, The Grinch, it went off script quite a bit, but I really enjoyed it. And I've heard a lot of people said they thought that the Whoville people were ugly. I thought they were cute as hell.
I thought it was one of the best costuming they've ever seen in a movie.
Well, that's why I won an Academy Award, right?
Yeah.
Yep. What was it? Bruce Baker, was it?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I think. And did I say already that, that whole costume thing, Ron Howard's looking at him and he's going, "Listen, I know you're doing this every day." So they actually put Ron Howard in the costume. And Ron Howard, for a whole 2 days, was in the costume directing while Jim was doing his thing. And then you'd see him, both two Grinches, a short one and a tall one, in front of the camera looking at what shots and angles they wanted. But he wanted Jim to know that, hey, I'm going to get in this. It was hack. What kind of?
Yak.
Yak hair.
Yak hair.
And, he said it was the most uncomfortable and he thought he was being buried alive every day.
Yeah.
So, but it was cool that Ron Howard, did that. The other thing I thought was very cool, and the thing I love about Ron is that, Ron is just a great director and I think an all-around great guy. But his dad, I think he was 73 at the time, was in the movie, and his brother Kyle was also in the movie.
Clint.
Clint.
Yeah. Ron Howard puts his brother Clint Howard in every movie he does.
Yeah.
He's a funny-looking little extra guy, but he's in every single movie, and it's easy to catch him. It's also...
That's a lot of love from your brother.
It's a lot of love, yeah. And Jim Carrey also, in the movie, like you said, off script, he did a little thing when he was back in his cave. He was thinking about going down to the Whoville for Christmas after, I believe, Cindy Lou Who invited him down, right? and he's doing this whole thing in front of the TV, what he's going to wear and all this kind of stuff. And he puts on a director's hat and he stares at the camera and he's like, all right, that's it. Cut. We're out of here. And he was imitating Ron Howard. And they all were laughing on behind the cameras about his little take on Ron.
I got to tell you that Jim Carrey, even through all those prosthetics and the makeup and everything else, it's him with that smile, and everything that he does. And Ron just, the one thing that they always said about Ron hates directing. So just do your thing, okay? Have a good time. And that whole scene when he goes to change, when the Grinch goes to change, that wasn't even in the script. That was just Jim Carrey being Jim Carrey.
He's going behind the screen. It's like he'll throw out some clothes and like, nope, that's not it. And he comes out in little tutus and he's dancing in front of the camera, right?
But what would I wear?
That's it. I'm not going.
And the thing that was interesting, it was $124 million to make that movie, and it hit almost $400 million box office, which is like number 2 or right in there. But wow, what a return on your money.
Yeah.
And for all the critics, I mean, a lot of the critics, I won't mention which ones, but I mean, they were giving it like, a 38 out of 100.
Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah.
And I don't think Jim Carrey was making $7 million at that time either, right? He was probably a $3 to $4, maybe $1 million on that payday on that.
Yeah, once he got up to the Renee Zellweger movies, he started making the money.
It's interesting too. There was 2 real famous people that narrated both of those, the illustrated movie as well as Jim Carrey's. The original one back in 1966 was narrated by horror movie actor Boris Karloff. But in the movie, when they sing the popular song, "You're a Mean One, Mr. Grinch," that wasn't Boris. It's a nice deep baritone, but it's not Boris. It's Thurl. What was his name? Thurl Ravenscroft.
Yeah.
And he wasn't even credited in it, but it was, "You're a mean one." You do even better. You got a better voice for that.
You're a mean one, Mr. Grinch.
Yeah.
But the cool thing, Boris, was amazing.
I love Boris Karloff.
And he's got a great voice. But that's what made this one. Anthony Hopkins comes in.
Anthony Hopkins did.
And he gets that, that Silence of the Lamb thing going. And you're like, okay, this is cool.
I also read too somewhere that the widow again had final say. She had final cut, and they gave her 8 different versions. She's like made changes. I mean,
right?
Really? And you hear, like you said, you got Ronnie Howard and what's his name,
Brian
doing that stuff. But she came back and got rid of some cuts, and probably was right. The writers had a family live down in Whoville that didn't have any Christmas ornaments out, no tree in the house, and they were the Whosteins. And she's like, no, we're not doing that. Let's take
and they got rid of the eggnog scene.
Oh, I don't know that
the
one.
Eggnog Master, where it had the drunkest guy type. They did some really. It's 20 years ago, guys. So they did some stuff we thought, kind of Blazing Saddles type stuff.
In the Chair of Cheers, or cheer when he was a cheermeister.
Yeah, the cheermeister.
And everybody in town is just shoving food down his mouth. That's enough. I can't handle it.
I can't handle it.
Okay, that's all you got?
That's it.
Yeah. Those are, we'll call that the same movie, right? When you have to, you got to watch them both. Yeah. Every holiday. Yeah. But the Grinch, how the Grinch.
No, but you got to sit down with your family, your kids, grandma, grandpa, do the whole thing. Sit down. It's just funny. Some people say it's not for kids. The kids aren't going to pick up the stuff that, and one of the best actors in the whole movie, Kelly, which is the dog Max, who, that dog did a hell of a job. Who's ever telling that dog what to do, man.
Yeah, the handler.
You remember when he was sitting with his hand up like this, like, what are you thinking? It was just really well done. And Ron Howard, kudos to you.
Yeah, and after all, Christmas is not about all the fancy gifts and decorations. It's about family.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. I want gifts. Screw it. You know what I'm saying? So, what do you think, Grinch, is our second movie that you have to watch?
You and I talked about what would be another one. There's a good handful that you could pick from, but in my opinion,
is it Terminator?
No,
Terminator's close. I was thinking Terminator.
He's not even running. It happens to be a movie.
Wait a minute. You're not going to give it up yet, are you?
A movie that got super popular for a Christmas show when they did what?
Well, they did a 24-hour TNT, Turner Broadcasting, put it up in 1987 or whatever for a 24-hour. It was a stunt. And that's what really made it big. But that's after Warner Brothers had sold it.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
But that movie, it cost $3.3 million to make it. And they
made
thought
20. They made 20, I believe, million.
Yeah. And they thought that was fairly dismal, but it fell off the charts really
quick.
fast,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
But, you know, that Christmas time back then, I mean, it was like, you know, let's just keep pumping these things out. You know, you had some amazing, you know, movies.
Yeah. You want to come back and tell them what it is?
Well, we'll be back in a minute.
Hey everyone, I'm your elf on the shelf from Mike Thompson RV. One of the most common questions this time of year is, does anyone buy an RV as a Christmas gift?
Absolutely. We're going to put a bow on it. We're going to put lights on it. Then we're going to fill it with presents, and us little angry elves will deliver it anywhere to your house. We'll slide it right down the chimney and under the tree.
So Grinch, I got to tell you, you know, the Grinch, Jim Carrey, Ron Howard, Brian Glazer, guys, there's so many people that give this thing such low ratings. And I want to tell you something, from 1 to 5 hammers, it's a 4.5 for me.
Very good. Considering the fact that it has brought my family together, as I said, even as my daughters are now adult age and we still watch it every year together, 5 hammers. Wow.
First time you've given a 5.
It is, first time.
So now that the Grinch is gone, Troy's back. Same cat. We talked about the Grinch. And guys, we really want to know, you know, when you hit that subscribe button, hit that like, I want to hear your comments on what's your favorite Christmas movie, okay, or show. But our second one, it's not really second. They're both two of our favorites. And these are not like favorites, but must watch every Christmas season. What is it, Troy?
Christmas Story.
A Christmas Story.
A Christmas Story. It's shot in 1987, I think it was. Or was it 83?
It was 83.
83. Shot in 83, but the background is Midwest, Illinois, actually.
1940s.
Late 30s, early 40s, yeah. And so you get that nostalgia of the cars and the snow, you know, because I grew up in that, you know, whole environment as well. So really, really super fun movie. It's like a vignette of little vignettes throughout the entire movie. Even though the mainstay is little, wasn't it Ralphie, right?
Ralphie.
Ralphie. You got to love Ralphie, which was Billingsley.
Yep.
What's his name?
Billingsley.
Peter Billingsley, right?
Yeah.
With those little round glasses.
That's right.
You know, they interviewed, you know what? You're never going to guess how many people they interviewed for that part. 8,000 kids they had come in to do auditions to be Ralphie.
Well, they actually did. I think it was Cornflakes or something that actually did a cereal box thing to come.
Well, he that's what his first job was, I think, that Peter had. He did an ad for that, and they saw him. And as soon as they walked in, they go, "That's him." But they still had 2,000 more people to interview.
Yeah.
To do, and they said, Peter's the guy. I mean, look at him.
Yeah, with those glasses, man, they were like, "Okay, you're the guy."
Little rosy cheeks, you know, because it's always cold.
So you know where the movie came from, Troy, right?
You know, some writers that put together a lot of different stories. Yeah.
Gene Shepard. And, you know, he wrote a book, In God We Trust, Everyone Else Pays Cash.
Yeah.
And this cat wrote for Playboy. And, I mean, Porky's. I mean, an American Christmas Story would not even exist if Porky's didn't exist. Okay, same cat. But you had this guy that Rob Clark, in the 60s, he was actually on his way to a date. And he's listening to Sean on the radio, and Sean's going over all this stuff. And he's like 5 minutes from his date's house, and he wants to hear this radio program. So for an hour, he's circling the neighborhood, listening to the radio, right? So you can imagine his date's pissed by the time he gets there. He's an hour late, right? But he said, I gotta do a movie about this. And that's how A Christmas Story began. And it was going to be a lot raunchier than what it is, but it ended up to be, you know, what?
Well, a classic family Christmas show. And I think he brought a piece of that into the movie. You know, as I mentioned before, there's like a lot of different vignettes within the movie, one of which is a part where Ralphie listens to the radio every night, right? He sits in front of that, listen to Little Orphan Annie.
Yep.
Radio show, right?
Well, they didn't have TV then.
Right. And so he'd sit down and they had little, they did. Well, no, yeah, no, you're right. They did back then, you're right.
No.
So these little decoder rings, right? You'd get these decoder rings and he just couldn't wait. They gave a clue every week and little Ralphie'd be by his radio, right? And no, we're not giving anything away because this is a movie been around forever, but he finally gets the whole thing. He's writing his little thing. He's got his glasses going. He can't wait and says, drink your Ovaltine. It was an advertisement.
Yeah.
Right? It was a shameless plug for Ovaltine. He was so disappointed.
And the other funny thing about it, they thought there was going to, this nice metal thing and everything else, but because of World War II, it was made out of paper.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, and they kept it going for a number of years, but it was made out of paper, so he's all bummed out.
Yeah.
But what did Ralphie want? What was the most important thing to Ralphie?
He had to have a Red Ryder BB gun.
Yeah. I mean, any of us, I growing up, where I grew up, you needed, the first thing I ever got was a BB gun, right? You have to have a BB gun.
Red Ryder Carbine 200 something. It was like a long name, right?
Some ridiculous thing, right?
And there's 3 people who told him, you're going to put your eye out with that thing, right? His mom told him.
Yeah, well, let's not go there
And
yet.
his teacher told him.
Oh, yeah.
And then, of course, Santa Claus told him.
So does he put his eye out? Well, we'll get to that.
We'll get to that in a minute.
Yeah. I guess the key in that one, the kid wore glasses, so that kind of helps.
They weren't safety glasses back then, but got to put an eye out with that thing.
Hey, we all wear glasses, including our sound guy who just made funny of us wearing our glasses. Eddie, our sound guy, wears glasses too, so we're all in that field. But the interesting thing about this movie is, it wasn't a big budget movie, and it only went out to 900 cinemas.
Yeah.
Okay, so it was a very small release back in the day, but it fell off the charts very rapidly within a couple weeks. All the other big Christmas movies were coming, and it fell off immediately. So what happened to it, Troy?
Well, 2 other actors, right? We had Melinda Dillon was the mom, and she wasn't overly popular actress. She had done what was the Alien movie? Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Right.
That's where she was kind of known from. And then you got Darren McGavin, who I loved from, what was it? Dark Knight, Night Shadows. What was that?
Night Shadows.
Night something.
Night Stalker.
Night Stalker.
Night Stalker.
When I loved him from that. And then so in this movie, it was perfect.
Bob Clark is the one that got him the job because they were going to put Jack Nicholson in this.
Yes, I heard that.
Yeah.
That's right.
But they were a little too worried, Bob, and the boys were a little too worried that it was going to be too much.
Over the top.
Yeah, his salary would have been too much, so they didn't do that.
So as you mentioned, the reason the movie finally came around to be popular is I think it was TNT or Ted Turner
Network.
TNN,
yeah. Well, what happened is Warner sold a 52 movie package, to the brothers, and then Ted Turner decided as a spoof in '87, let's run A Christmas Story for 24 hours straight.
And again and again.
Yeah, so they played it 12 times in 24 hours. Well, needless to say, it became a cult classic.
And they do it every year still. They're doing it in a couple of days. They're going to do it again. But yeah.
It's crazy.
And what kind of gets me is my dad is a writer. He does a lot of short stories and several novels. And almost all of them are period to late 30s, early 40s.
Well,
it's what he
youth.
knows, right? And it's an Americana. There's something about that time, like you said. There's no cell phones, there's no computers, there's no TVs for the most part. So it's your family, right? Especially Midwest. It's cold. It sets the theme for that traditional Christmas, and one of the great reasons, for it being so popular, I think. But again, as I mentioned, the vignettes, right? Remember, he was always battling his furnace. His boiler down, down the dreaded furnace down is like clanking all the time, and that's where little Peter Billingsley learned how to swear because his dad was always swearing up a storm. And what you hear in the movie is like rap, 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 and he would go on and on and on. And I believe it was Ralphie said something like his dad's swear words from the boiler are still hanging over Lake Michigan in a cloud or something like that. It was such a blue rant, right? It's perfect.
Well, the other thing that was kind of interesting because it was period, and you see, our boy that does Pulp Fiction. The great director that does
Tarantino.
He does those cameos. And the producer did the same thing in this. The Swede,
Yeah.
the idiot neighbor,
Yeah.
basically.
With all the dogs.
Yeah, with all the dogs. That was one of the producers. He just did a little cameo. But it was kind of cool. And I always love it when the director or the producers do a cameo. And that's one thing I think that, it immortalizes it, but it also gives you a back, bone of, and you want to know more about those guys.
Yeah, and there was 3 total people involved with writing and producing that ended up doing cameos in the movie, right? I mean, that was actually another one of the things, right? So the neighbors had like what they said was 1,000 basset hounds or something. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
And it was the bane of the old man, the dad, his existence.
Yeah.
And Christmas Day, the door flies open, right? All the dogs come running in. They tear the turkey off the table. They eat it. There's no turkey dinner, which turns into going to the Chinese restaurant in town.
Exactly.
The only place open on Christmas, right?
Nowadays, that might be a little offensive with what happened
It was the Chop Suey Palace.
Yeah, exactly.
The Chop Suey Palace. And one of the funniest parts of the whole movie, right? Since there's nobody else in there except
Right.
for Ralphie, his little brother, his mom and dad.
Yeah.
The crew comes out from behind the kitchen to sing fa la 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 la. It's like
Yep.
fa ra 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 ra. Come Carol, Father Carol.
A Christmas Story, guys. There's only one way to go with this. Listen, it was a low budget film that kind of went really nowhere in the box office, and it took a number of years after they sold off the movie, after Warner Brothers sold it off. But once again, just because Ted Turner, TNT, made it such a must, it has to be 5 hammers.
Wow, I'm impressed.
It has to be. I mean,
impressed.
it just...
Well, it doesn't have to be because I'm not giving it 5.
Well, that's okay. I am.
Love it. Watch it every year as well. Sometimes I'll watch it twice every year, which
There
means
you
I
go.
should do a 5. But on the technicality and the cinematography and stuff, which is all fun, but it wasn't like whoa. So I give it a 3 3/4 hammers.
Okay, listen. They broke the lamp, the leg lamp. So that's probably why you're giving it a 3 3/4.
You mean the major award?
But yeah, the major award. And the major award should be 5 leg lamps.
5 leg lamps. Yeah, there you go. I'll give it 5
That's
leg
it.
lamps.